Marcus Carter had spent over a decade in the FBI, working his way up from a rookie field agent to a well-respected investigator in the Bureau's Organized Crime Division. He had faced cartel members, high-profile fraudsters, and even corrupt politicians, but nothing tested his patience like encounters with small-minded individuals who judged him by his skin color before anything else. It was late in the evening, and Marcus was driving home after a long debriefing session at FBI headquarters. The sky was painted in hues of deep orange and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. His black Chevrolet Suburban cruised smoothly down the near-empty highway, his mind lost in thought about his next assignment. Suddenly, flashing red and blue lights appeared in his rearview mirror. His stomach tightened. He knew he hadn't broken any traffic laws. His speed was under the limit, his taillights were functional, and he wasn't swerving. Still, he flicked on his turn signal and pulled over onto the side of the road. The patrol car stopped behind him, and Marcus watched through his side mirror as a tall, burly police officer stepped out. The officer adjusted his belt, his gun holster shifting slightly, and walked toward the driver's side window. Marcus rolled down his window and greeted him calmly. "Good evening, officer. Is there a problem?" The cop, whose badge read Riley, didn't respond immediately. His sharp blue eyes studied Marcus carefully before he finally spoke. "License and registration." His tone was flat, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. Marcus reached for his wallet, moving slowly so as not to give Riley any excuse for an overreaction. He handed over his credentials, including his FBI identification. Riley barely glanced at the ID before scoffing. "This is fake." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? You expect me to believe a guy like you is a federal agent?" Riley sneered. "Nice try. Step out of the vehicle." Marcus took a deep breath. He had been in this situation before, wrongfully profiled, questioned, even disrespected. But this time was different. He had clearly identified himself, and yet Riley was choosing to escalate the situation. "Officer," Marcus said, keeping his voice steady, "if you run my name through your system, you'll see that I am who I say I am." "I don't take orders from you," Riley snapped. "I said step out of the vehicle. Now." Marcus knew better than to argue. He opened the door and stepped out with his hands visible. Riley immediately grabbed his arm and roughly shoved him against the side of the SUV. Before Marcus could say another word, he felt cold metal snap around his wrists. His patience was gone. "This is unlawful detainment," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "You have no grounds for an arrest. If you don't take these cuffs off right now, you're going to regret it." Riley let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, you're gonna make me regret it. That's funny. You're about 2 seconds away from spending the night in a holding cell." Just then, another voice cut through the tension. "Officer Riley." Both men turned their heads to see another police car pulling up. A second officer, younger and visibly nervous, stepped out. His eyes widened when he saw Marcus in cuffs. "Sir," the younger officer said quickly, "there's been a mistake." Riley frowned. "What are you talking about?" The young officer gulped, then turned to Marcus with an apologetic expression. "Sir, I just ran his name through the database. He's Special Agent Marcus Carter, FBI." A new voice interjected. Riley turned to see a tall, intimidating black man in a dark suit stepping out of a sleek government vehicle that had just pulled up. His movements were precise, his expression unreadable. "Director Peterson," Marcus greeted, now completely unfazed by Riley's actions. The color drained from Riley's face. Director Peterson walked up to them, his sharp gaze fixed on Riley. "Would you mind explaining why one of my top agents is in handcuffs?" Riley stammered. "He wasn't cooperating. He matched the description of a suspect." Peterson's lips curled into a humorless smirk. "Is that right? Or did you see a black man in an expensive car and decide to flex your authority?" Riley's throat bobbed. He couldn't even meet the director's gaze. Peterson took a step closer. "You just unlawfully detained a federal agent. Do you have any idea how serious that is?" Riley had gone pale. His arrogance was gone, replaced by sheer panic. I can explain." "Save it," Peterson cut him off. He turned to the younger officer. "Take those cuffs off, now." The younger officer fumbled with the keys, quickly unlocking Marcus's wrists. As soon as they were off, Marcus rubbed his wrists, his expression unreadable. Peterson wasn't finished. "Officer Riley, you're suspended, effective immediately, pending an internal investigation. If I have anything to say about it, this will be your last day in uniform." Riley's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Marcus finally spoke, his voice as cool as ever. "Maybe next time, you'll actually check IDs before throwing people in cuffs." With that, Marcus climbed back into his SUV and started the engine. He took one last glance at Riley, whose entire career had just crumbled in a matter of minutes. As he drove away, a small smirk formed on his lips. Justice had been served.